An early post-mortem might have led to Smith's arrest. As it was, he was free to lead his life. I've come to this lab to meet Dr. Stuart Hamilton. As a Home Office pathologist, he knows what might have happened if there'd been a post-mortem.
Autopsies are only really performed if a cause of death can't be determined or if the cause of death is likely to be unnatural. But he did this in different places, and the coroner's system then was not well joined up. So one coroner may not know what occurred in another coroner's jurisdiction previously, and therefore we may simply have been looking at a series of individual deaths. It's only when you look at the sequence of the deaths that it becomes suspicious. So if he'd stopped at one, we may never have known that he was a murderer.
Drowning in a bath is an unusual occurrence. Stuart's arranged an experiment to demonstrate what would have happened to Smith's brides when they were drowned.
What we've got here is some lungs, trachea and the heart from a sheep.
Fairly similar to a human being's.
Pretty much the same in all mammals, really. And these lungs will expand as you breathe in, and they'll contract as you breathe out, and keeping the oxygen travelling around your body, keeping you alive.
But if water gets in there, show us what happens.
Then, as we put the water in, we squeeze it. You can see those lungs inflating with the water actually filling them up. And just as an example, when you do resuscitation on somebody who's partially drowned, what you're trying to do is compress the chest so that water comes out and it leaves more room for the air to get in and to allow you to breathe.
But once the water's going in, there's no way that you can breathe.
No. And that water rushing in, it's going to hit the lungs. It's going to be painful. Just think of what happens if you just accidentally inhale a little bit of a drink or something like that. You get that burning sensation in your chest. And this spongy sort of area is all tiny little spaces that should be getting air into them, and they'll all be full of water and they'll be absolutely useless. A very unpleasant way to die. You will be fighting for breath, you'll be fighting for air, you will actually be doing the movements of breathing as your body tries to pull in the air, and you'll just be pulling in more water. It would be a very unpleasant death.
Is drowning, especially forcible drowning, easy to prove?
Remarkably, drowning is not an easy diagnosis to make. There's nothing you can see in a human body specifically which tells you a person must have drowned. And what you've got to look at is the findings in the lungs, the finding elsewhere in the body, and the circumstances in which somebody's found.
With no post-mortem on the body of Alice Burnham, no suspicion fell upon Smith. Within days of his wife's death, he collected the £500 life insurance policy he'd placed on her and returned to Bristol. He'd now killed twice and would soon strike again. I'm Fred Dinenage, and I'm investigating the brides in the bath murders committed by mercurial charmer George Joseph Smith. He murdered his wives by drowning them. Such was his cunning, nobody suspected a thing. By 1914, George Joseph Smith was at his most dangerous. He'd already killed 2 of his wives and claimed thousands of pounds for their deaths. Smith took it as the perfect opportunity to continue his reign of bigamy and murder, as millions of men were called up to fight in World War I. Driven by greed, he set out looking for a new victim. Would it have become easier after the first one?
Absolutely. Most serial killers are not very skilled at murder when they first kill. But of course, if they then perfect how they murder, that means they gain in confidence about how they're going to behave. And crucially, in Smith's case, and with many serial killers, you see the gap between murders becoming narrower and narrower and narrower, because then they feel so powerful that they think they are never going to be caught, that they are invincible, that they're omnipotent. And so if we look at the gap between the murders of Bessie Munday, the first victim, we're talking about there being some 2 years between her murder and the murder of Alice Burnham, but we're only talking a matter of a few months between the murder of Alice Burnham and Margaret Lofty.